Rosa Parks was robbed and beaten in her own home, and then this happened. In 1957, 2 years after her courageous stand on the bus, Rosa Parks moved from Montgomery, Alabama to Detroit, Michigan. She and her husband Raymond Parks, along with their family, left to escape persistent threats. For decades, she continued her fight for justice, serving leaders as a secretary and receptionist until her retirement in 1988. What should have been a peaceful retirement quickly turned into a nightmare for Rosa Parks. On August 30th, 1994, a man broke down her door and falsely claimed he had chased away an intruder. He asked for a tip as a reward. Being the kind person Rosa was, she reached into her pocketbook and gave him the $3 he initially asked for. He demanded more, and when she refused, he proceeded to punch her in the face and threatened further harm. She eventually gave him all of her money, which was about $103. In Jean Theo Harris's book titled The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks, Rosa said, "I tried to defend myself and grabbed his shirt. Even at 81 years of age, I felt it was my right to defend myself." After this horrific attack, Rosa contacted her close friend, Elaine Steele, who lived across the street. Elaine immediately called the police, but it took them 50 minutes to arrive. The question on everyone's mind was this: what kind of person would want to harm Rosa Parks, and why? The slow response time and Rosa's vulnerability in her own home highlighted the lack of security and support despite her prominent status. The police documented the incident and eventually launched an investigation, which led to the identification of a man named Joseph Skipper. In 1995, Joseph Skipper was eventually arrested and sentenced to 8 to 15 years in prison. He was released in July 2009, only to be charged 37 days later for a similar crime. He is currently serving a 25-year sentence with an expected early release in 2030. For someone who had already faced so much in life, this act of violence left Rosa feeling vulnerable and in need of a safe place to live. Her friends and the Detroit community rallied behind her, determined to help. One of Rosa's closest friends, United States Appeals Court Judge Damon Keith, was heartbroken by what happened to her. A firm believer in the power of community, he knew Rosa deserved a secure and comfortable place to live. Damon worked to find her a safer home at the Riverfront Apartments in downtown Detroit, where she could feel peace and safety. The word of Rosa's story spread through Detroit and reached Mike Ilitch, the founder of Little Caesars Pizza. Moved by what he heard and known for his love of the city and its people, Mike reached out to Damon to see how he could help. When Damon explained that Rosa would need ongoing support to cover her rent, Mike immediately offered to pay for as long as she needed.
And Mike and Marion sent in a substantial check. In fact, I just sent a copy of their check back to them 3 or 4 weeks ago.
For the next 11 years, Mike quietly covered Rosa's rent, ensuring she could live without worry. Month after month, he sent the checks, never seeking publicity or recognition. Even his close friends didn't know about his gesture. Supporting Rosa Parks was simply the right thing to do in his eyes. Mike believed in helping without seeking praise. In 2017, Detroit came together to honor the man behind the kindness. At Mike's funeral, the city felt the loss of someone who had given his whole heart to their community. Known as Mr. I, Mike passed away at 87 years old. His life story included building a pizza empire with Little Caesars, owning the Detroit Tigers, and leading the Detroit Red Wings to 4 Stanley Cup victories. But beyond these achievements, he was celebrated for his quiet kindness and commitment to Detroit. In an interview with CBS Evening News, Damon said that Mike told him, "I don't want Rosa going back to that neighborhood. She deserves better." In his eyes, This was a small way to repay someone who had given so much. Damon even shared this story in his book titled Crusader for Justice, Federal Judge Damon J. Keith. He recalled how he asked Mike for help and how Mike never hesitated. He took a picture holding one of the checks Mike Ilitch gave him, and you can see just how proud he was.
You'll never discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. Mike and Marion had the courage to lose sight of the shore and discover new oceans. They kept pushing Detroit.
It wasn't about the money. It was the fact that he cared enough to take action without even saying a word. Many people had no idea just how giving Mike was. People across the country were moved by Mike's dedication to helping Rosa without expecting anything in return. As the story spread, more people felt inspired by Mike's example, and his memory became a symbol of what it means to give back with a full heart. Rosa Parks did not express open anger or resentment towards Joseph Skipper, the man who attacked her in 1994. Instead, she responded with love and resilience, which reflected her lifelong approach to adversity. She emphasized the need for community support and guidance for younger generations. In a 1994 interview with the Seattle Times, Rosa expressed her concern about the challenges facing young people. She said, "Parents, teachers, people in the justice system should be more concerned about their own as well as other people's children." Rosa's husband, Raymond Parks, passed away in 1977. To honor his legacy, she, along with her friend Elaine Steele, co-founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development in 1987. Their focus was on youth empowerment, character building, and education. The story of Rosa Parks and Mike Ilitch lives on in Detroit's heart and people all over the world. Their legacy reminds all of us that we have the ability to make a meaningful difference in someone else's life. It doesn't take a grand gesture. Sometimes it's the simple decision to lend a helping hand that leaves the most lasting impact. Mike's quiet support for Rosa teaches us that everyday acts of kindness make the biggest difference. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it to have his name in lights. He did it because that's just who he really was. In a world that often rewards public gestures, Mike's story is a powerful reminder that the purest form of giving is when no one knows your name.